Welcome all to the Pro Football Radio Podcast. This is your co-host Jay Chima with the pride and joy of Merrimack, New Hampshire, Puma. Welcome in, brother man. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Great to be back in the saddle. Super excited to be chopping it up with you. We had a very extended, time off period. I don't know about you. Me personally, once the Super Bowl ended last year, I unplugged from everything NFL. I just needed to reprocess things, but it's good. Week one's in the books. Got the juices back. I'm excited to be chopping it up. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And just like you said, after the Super Bowl, I decided to go away from football for a while. I just cannot stand Patrick Mahomes, right? So any single time he does anything of value, I decide not to tune in. So I took a little break, got my mental right. Ready to go, though. I'm ready to go. Week one came and went. My Patriots got a win in Cincinnati. Let's go.
Nice.
Dynasty reborn. Let's go.
Love it. Let's party, man.
Yes,
actually, you know what? In all honesty, though, the Pats they really played hard on Sunday. Like I was impressed. Like I was on the other end. I took Bengals -8, and the whole world did. I was pissed, but like in one of those situations, like I'd rather the team lose than like win and not cover at all. But I mean, that Pats defense was really flying around. They were playing hard. I mean, Jacoby Brissett was running around like a crazy man. I don't know how many yards he had on the ground because I was watching that while attempting to work at my job at the same time. But it was a good game. It was probably the first effort, a strong effort by the Pats that I've seen in a really long time. Honestly, probably since like the first year Brady left and there was kind of like that love for McCorkle Jones all the way up until like the bye week in the Indianapolis game where everything just went off the rails from there. But I was really impressed by the Pats. So, I think they're 3.5-point dogs at home against Seattle. Seattle honestly didn't impress me a whole lot. So at home, getting 3.5, like that might be worth a look for me, especially if Kenneth Walker Jr. is going to be dinged up with an abdominal injury.
What does it say about the Patriots that the second Bill Belichick walks out the door, they play with their hair on fire? Like two takeaways from that game. How bad did Mac Jones suck? Right?
Yeah, right.
And two, how much did Bill Belichick lose that team, right? Because from where I'm sitting, the roster is the same. The roster is the exact same, besides adding Drake May and a couple of young wide receivers that really haven't done much yet, right? For the most part, we won that game on Sunday with the same exact roster from last year, and it was just simply putting one new head coach in there, right? And this is going to be an interesting case scenario this year, Puma, because the Patriots didn't strip the organization down to its studs. They didn't go out there and fire the GM. They didn't go out there and essentially rip the defense apart. They basically said, Belichick, you're the problem. Let's get rid of you and see what happens, right? Because, in all reality, for the first, I would say, 8 weeks of this season, it's going to be the same exact team. Drake May is not going to play. The rookie wide receivers are going to probably not essentially, I mean, they might have contributed, but nothing too crazy. But to its course, it's going to be the same exact team, bro. And I want to see just how we do. And imagine if we go 4-4 in 8 games, you know what I'm saying? Or like something crazy like that. Oh my God, dude, that'd be just chef's delight. And it's funny because that Weasel Bellafraud, right, has six freaking shows, right? Didn't mention the Patriots one. Didn't mention the Patriots once. You freaking weasel. You freaking bum, Belichick. Belichick, you bum. You know what I'm saying?
Now, our boy Imposing Chris in the chat, which, by the way, Chris, it's great to see you, buddy. It's been a long time. I hope you're doing well. We didn't forget about you. We're happy you're in here chopping it up with us. But Jay might have something to say about the drive for 5 wins, which honestly is probably a good bar. Like that might be a good bar considering everyone has them finishing like dead last in the NFL with right there neck and neck with the Carolina Panthers. But I think they're going to be froggy. They're going to be very froggy, very live in these games, in my opinion.
The drive for 5 or more. Ooh.
Ooh.
No, in reality, man, listen, I mean, as long as we get more than 4 wins, which is the bar we set last year, I'm okay, right? Because for me, At this point, I can't take solace and win a Super Bowl. I just know we're not going to win a Super Bowl. The Patriots are not good enough to win a Super Bowl. I got to take solace in the fact that the Patriots are going to do better without Bill Belichick as their head coach. Like that for me is good enough to go home and sleep at and be fine with the NFL season. I just want to make sure people understand Bill Belichick's a freaking fraud. All right. I just want that cemented. All right. And then I want him to come back next year and take a dumpster fire like the Giants, right? And then have another like 8-10 season or 7-10 season, and he just walks out and retires, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, my guy Chris, good seeing you, man. Good seeing you, brother. You a real one, Chris.
Yep, OG.
All right, speaking of which, the Buffalo Bills are coming off of a heroic performance against the Arizona Cardinals. Josh Allen basically donned the Superman cape. And then your Miami Dolphins are coming off a win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Also kind of a heroic win as well, because you guys are about to go down 24-7 or whatever it was. And all of a sudden that fumble basically turned everything around. So Thursday Night Football, monster game. Thursday Night Football to start off the season. What's your thoughts? Preview it for me. Who you got winning, brother?
Oh, God. So this one, it's kind of hard to get a read off of. Just, honestly, both teams should have lost. Like, Arizona, Kyler Murray had, Marvin Harrison Jr. wide the F open to get the win at the end, but he just didn't see him. Insert Kyler Murray height joke here. But well, honestly, he balled out. And my big concern going into this season with the Bills was really like that revamped secondary. Like they lost Jordan Poyer. He's now a Miami Dolphin. Micah Hyde is on injured reserve. So I don't think he's not going to be available for up until week 4 at the earliest. I mean, Jay, like it's so bad. And I mean, no disrespect by saying this. Damar Hamlin is starting in the secondary, or at least he's
easy now. All right, easy.
But I mean, let's be honest, Jay.
All
like
right.
it's a great story. Nobody's disparaging that, but like he shouldn't even be on special teams. We saw that in the playoffs last year. Like, I'm sorry, if you're putting Damar Hamlin out there in the secondary, that kind of tells you the state of that revamped secondary. With no Tre'Davious White. Like, it is what it is. I mean, look at the scoreboard, Jay. Like, they put up 28 points on the Buffalo Bills, and Josh Allen's probably going to be on injured reserve by week 5 if he keeps taking the shots that he did.
Puma, the man touched the other side, all right? He came back from the dead. He was basically touching hands with Jesus and God, all right? And then he came back, all right? So, like, I think he'll be fine in the secondary, okay, Puma?
Sure,
like,
sure.
Like
well, I mean, they're going to be picking on him a whole lot.
Most NFL corners and safeties are like, practicing how to backpedal or, read coverage and defenses. But Damar Hamlin is out there just meeting God and coming back, bro. He'll be fine, bro. He'll be okay, right?
Okay. Well, we'll look at the box score on Friday, and we'll see about that. And then, on the other side of the ball with the Dolphins, I mean, they're going into this game. Raheem Mostert's dinged up. He didn't participate in practice today. Devon Achane is dinged up. He didn't participate in practice. I'm not personally holding my breath on him playing because it sounds like he might have a mild high ankle sprain, and we know how those go with running backs. And he's been dinged up from time to time last season, even going into the season last year as well, too, coming out of Texas A&M. And just some of the play calls at times, like some of the 4th down decisions by Mike McDaniel. Again, I was at work, so I didn't fully have eyes on the Dolphins Jaguars game, but I mean, they looked like they were dead to rights at times. And if it wasn't for that fumble, it's a different story. And then on top of that, Jay, you have all of this media attention, and rightfully so, about like the Tyreek Hill police stop and
lock him up.
Whether did he help did he do anything to help his cause in the moment with the cop? No, not really. But I think we can all agree that police officer was renegade Rambo on that arrest. And I just feel like and rightfully so, there's so much attention being drawn to this that to me, this feels like it could be a perfect spot for the Dolphins to go into a tank on a big game after that comeback win, but with the off the field distractions. I'm leaning towards Miami winning at home just because they've been dominant at home. And from a betting angle, Tua at home is 18-9 against the spread. But Josh Allen has also owned Tua and has also owned the Dolphins in his career. But, they're a 2.5 point favorite. I think the line opened up at 1.5. So there is some action coming in on Miami, I believe here. So the line's getting bumped up to 2.5, but I'm probably not going to touch the spread. I kind of like the total. Last I saw it was at 48.5. It's probably been moving all day, but I lean towards Miami in a close game, but that's just a lean.
All right, let me start with the Tyreek Hill thing, right? So two things can be true here, right? You've got an overzealous cop that's operating way beyond his scope, right? And then you've got an asshole rich dude being a prick, right? It's simple as that, right? Like both folks in this situation were essentially testing the limits of what was going to happen, right? And it's unfortunate that it ended the way it did, but I mean, it is what it is, right? So I am glad to see Tua was able to get to the game, ball out. My fantasy team thanks him. Is it bad that I saw that video and I was like, I wonder if he's gonna be able to play today? Like, do I gotta?
Oh, everybody, listen. If anybody's out there on X, Twitch, YouTube, and they're saying, "Oh man, like I didn't care about Tyreek Hill in my fantasy thing. I just want to make sure he's okay." Bullshit. You were on there like refreshing the Twitter feed, being like, is he going to play? What is Mike Garafolo saying? What's Jeff Darlington saying? Everybody had a betting fantasy interest in whether or not Tyreek Hill was going to play. Honestly, though, when I saw he was released, I'm like, he's about to go for like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Hop off. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine and she was all like, just bringing the whole police brutality thing into it and this and that. And listen, a bigger conversation that is what better people are having, but I'm not a better person. I'm a shit person. And for me personally, I just want to make sure Tyreek Hill can go out there and catch some touchdowns from a fantasy team. All right. That's where my focus lies. All right. So thank you, Tyreek, for balling out. Secondly, so what did you see out of the Buffalo Bills in week 1, right? Because it's wonderful to see them down. Well, it's not wonderful, but it's cool to see them come back and get that win against the Arizona Cardinals, right? So it's always fun to see that. But is there any alarming trends that it seems like they're relying on Josh even more than ever before? Like, I remember we say this every year. Maybe we should stop saying it because maybe it is just who Josh Allen is. Maybe it's just that he has to have this much usage to be productive, right? I feel like he's one of those quarterbacks where if you don't have that much usage out of him, then he's just not going to be as good, right? So, while it's good that the Buffalo Bills won this game, I am concerned at the fact that they just are even more reliant on him. Like, imagine if he gets hurt, then what? You're screwed, right? Imagine if he has a bad game, then what? You're screwed, right? There's no other identity besides Josh. Here's a Superman cape and have fun.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't that the whole point of getting rid of Ken Dorsey and bringing in Joe Brady is to take the heat off of Josh, and we're going to run the ball more because Sean McDermott is just an old crotchety SOB that wants to run the football like it's the 1980s. But I mean, I thought that was the whole point, and it was really, like you said, it was Josh putting that cape on. You probably have more eyes on it because I was stuck at work. He looked like he was taking shot after shot after shot, and that's against the Arizona Cardinals, and that's no disrespect. They made it a game. It's Jonathan Gannon defense. They were very froggy last year, even with astronaut Josh Dobbs at quarterback for a cup of coffee there. But I'm definitely going to wonder, like, what is his durability going to be like? Because we all saw how it ended with Cam Newton, right? Like, he kept getting dinged up and he was, running around. And, believe it or not, there was a point in time where Cam could push the ball down the field. But that's a big concern is how much more usage are you going to get out of Josh Allen if he keeps playing this way? Like, you have James Cook in the backfield. You can line him up anywhere. He can catch the ball. He can run as fast as anybody I've ever seen. How about we start uncorking him? And I understand that the wide receivers aren't the best. On paper, they took a step back because Stephon Diggs left. They bring in Keon Coleman. Like, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, they lost Gabe Davis. But, like, a lot of that wide receiver room leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion. So we're going to see Josh Allen running around like a crazy person for the foreseeable future, just based off of what's in there for the offensive side of the football.
Yes, sir.
Now, what do you think? Like, who do you think who's going to eke out with the win?
Listen, man, this is a toss-up. This is seriously one of those toss-up games, right? You can essentially go with the historical trend that Josh Allen owns the Miami Dolphins, right? I will lean towards taking Miami at home just because I don't think this is sustainable. Like, I know like I said, we say this every year that, oh, you can't put all this on Josh, but this is ridiculous what happened on Sunday. Like, they literally were like, yeah, we have no plan. Like, our plan failed and we're down 17-3 or whatever the score was. Let's just have Josh do it. And how many times are you going to do that before you break the man, right? So ultimately, eventually, teams will be able to scheme that out. Defenses will adjust. And they're going to have to find other ways to win. I don't know if they have a second punch. I really don't, right? They're just a one-punch kind of team. And I think we're going to start seeing some of that on Thursday night, right? I think, Mike McDaniel and that coaching staff is a strong coaching staff, in my opinion, right? Even though they had a slow start against Jacksonville, I think Miami's going to really put them in some precarious situations.
Yeah, the other thing real quick before I get to imposing Chris's shout out here, which great call. For 10 points. Okay. All right, Chris. You're
Okay.
feeling a little bit more froggy than me. So I tip my cap to you, sir. But the other thing that takeaway from week one, and I get it, it's pretty much an extended preseason because nobody cares. They had 9 penalties for 65 yards, the Buffalo Bills. And I feel like 7 of those were either illegal formation or something with the offensive line or false starts. And I mean, the Miami Dolphins are fast enough as it is, and you're just going to give them free yardage because you can't line up right or whatever like that. You can't. You're not going to be able to win a game if you're going to have get popped 9 times for almost 70 yards in a football game. I'm sorry. So like if they're going to keep rolling that out, the Dolphins are going to be very, very froggy in this game on Thursday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So one of the biggest games of the weekend. The 0-1 Cincinnati Bengals, Cincinnati Bengals losing to my Patriots, are traveling out to Burrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, Kansas City week 1 beat the Ravens on a last-second heroic touchdown that didn't count for the Baltimore Ravens. What do you make of this game? Like, are you concerned about the Bengals? Like, this is a few years in a row now, right? They're just starting out, not the best, right? So now they might be 0-2 here soon. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm concerned. Like, I'm also saying that coming from the land where I was pretty much turning into, as Nick Costos of You Better You Bet likes to say, I am about to turn into the Joker if this team doesn't cover or if they don't stop with the stupidity. I was full on Joker at the office on Sunday while trying to watch the game on this stupid thing right here.
You couldn't hook up a TV or something or get your iPad going?
Dude, it was that's a long story, but yeah, we were having issues, and whenever like I'm trying to get into the game, the freaking phone would ring. But anywho, yeah, I'm concerned. I mean, yes, they've historically started off slow. Part of that's because Joe Burrow, who is one step away from being in Brandon Silva's Puma Bets, aka Mr. Glass category. He has always been hurt going into the season, whether it's an appendectomy, he's coming off an ACL injury. This year, it's the wrist. We saw him flexing that wrist a lot in that game on Sunday. He was taking a few shots here. Jamar Chase, that whole contract dispute, like, going into kickoff, I'm sitting there being like, I can't believe I have to wait and see if he's going to play, not because of an injury designation, but because of a contract dispute. Like, that was just stupid. And then a lot of the Bengals plays, like fumbling the football, like right in the red zone, right in the goal line. Like that was the living embodiment of that SpongeBob SquarePants bit where Patrick Star is trying to sweep the floor, but he's sweeping with the handle on the damn floor. And the guy comes up nonchalantly and says, "Hey, pal, did you just blow in from Stupid Town?" Like that is what all of those games were, that game was on Sunday. And now you're going to go on the road in Arrowhead where everyone is really feeling like how this Chiefs new offense looks with Xavier Worthy, which, by the way, Buffalo, apparently you didn't want a wide receiver in this kid. Like, I don't understand why you would do this trade with the Kansas City Chiefs and they get Xavier Worthy from you, but that's a rant for another day. And I just think going on the road, very underwhelming performance in week 1. I got Kansas City winning here. Granted, it's a big number, and we all know that Kansas City is kind of brutal at covering spreads, but I definitely would go with the Kansas City Chiefs at home with a rocking Arrowhead.
Okay, so listen, this game, you've already broken it down. I'm not going to repeat any of that because I believe the Chiefs are going to win, right? So what I want to pose to you is this, and hear me out, all right? It's not going to be crazy, all right? What's to say if you start out 0-2 again, right? and Joe Burrow looks like he's not there, right? Mike Brown can be erratic, right? And there is a coach out there sitting by the name of Bill Belichick, right? And what I'm trying to say here is, if we get to, let's say, week here, right? So let's say you lose to the Chiefs, you win against the Commanders, right? You win against the Panthers, you lose to the Ravens, right? Like, who's to say that you don't make that call, right? Because I think we figured out who Zach Taylor is. Zach Taylor is one of those guys who around the league is not really respected. And today on Boston radio, one of the folks on the Felgren Mass, by the name of Bedard, was talking about how he heard from league circles that Zach Taylor just laid a that basically, Gerard Mayo had ran coaching circles around him, right? So what are the chances in your mind that somehow, some way, they pull the plug on Zach Taylor? And I'm not saying after 3-4 games, but long term, can you see a situation where Zach Taylor gets fired and Bill Belichick walks into a ready-made situation to win a Super Bowl, right? Because we all know Bill Belichick is sitting out there, right? He's just scheming. He's just waiting. He's not going to go to the Giants because they don't have an elite quarterback. He's maybe the Cowboys or the Eagles if he gets fired. But I'm telling you what, Cincinnati might be a sneaky spot where Belichick might end up.
Well, that might be where Belichick wants to end up, but whether or not Mike Brown wants this guy to be butting heads with him, that's a different question. I think, to answer your question, if they have a very underwhelming season, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that he gets canned, because you hit the nail on the head with how Mike Brown is. But if you asked me to bet, is Bill Belichick going to be coaching the Cincinnati Bengals? Like, no way. I don't think so. I mean, look at what, he had a chance to be possibly the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, and Arthur Blank turned his nose up at that. A lot of people are put off on Bill Belichick. And even for that fact, to lump Mike Vrabel into this as well, too, because we're in the year of our Lord 2024. Analytics is the buzzword and using the math to go for it on fourth down. But you now have these old school hardos that are trying to rehabilitate their image with either Mike Vrabel being on the defensive coaching staff of the Cleveland Browns that pretty much has analytics tattooed on every person's body in there. And now you have Bill Belichick just selling out with the CW and Instagram and whatever else.
Media whore.
I just don't think I don't think it would be a fit. I think Mike Brown would be over this guy in a cocaine heartbeat. And the general manager for Cincinnati, he's done a decent enough job. Do you really want to cut that guy's legs out from under him to bring in this old hardo that wants to have command out of everything? To me, I don't think it's worth it.
Okay. All right. Figure out, throw that out there. All right. You know what time it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's time for Bear Down. Let's go. Bears versus Texans on Sunday Night Football. The savior of NFL football this past weekend made his debut, in Caleb Williams threw for 93 yards. Very unimpressive.
Yeah, he did a whole lot of heavy lifting. That was more so Will Levis being a moron than the Bears doing anything.
Will Levis was point shaving. I'm convinced of it. There's no way to be that bad, right? So,
oh my god, people were so pissed. 4.5 points just right down the tubes.
Jesus Christ! And then the Colts are coming off an impressive win against the. The Texans are coming off an impressive win against the Colts. Who got winning on Sunday night?
I gotta go with the Texans at home. I mean, CJ Stroud is still a savage, and Stephon Diggs went off, and Nico Collins is still that guy. I mean, if the Bears actually had a solidified running back room, I might think, okay, you could try to run the football on Houston. In theory, that is the weakness. And I thought we were going to have more involvement out of Jonathan Taylor last week, but part of that was game script, in my opinion. Also, part of that was probably the rest from the preseason. Let's be honest. Everybody's just considering weeks 1 and 2 as an extension of the preseason at this point. But, I forget what the spread is. I'll pull it up real quick off of DraftKings, or official sportsbook. But I believe Houston's laying 6.5 at home. That seems about right.
Yeah, that's a lot, actually. I thought it was going to be 3 points, maybe.
Nah, no way. 6.5 sounds about right. Just because you have D'Amico Ryan's, defensive head coach. He probably would be able to dial up some things to confuse the hell out of Caleb Williams. And I mean, plus Roma Dunze, he's got a knee contusion from the sounds of it, so he might be week to week. So who knows if he's going to start? So now it's just DJ Moore and who else out there?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So am I going to lay 6.5? Not really. But I do have Houston winning at home in probably a very impressive fashion, in my opinion.
Yeah, imposing Chris. Listen, if he throws for 94 yards, it might be his welcoming party, man. Instead of 93, he'll get that extra yard. He'll be fine, right? I'm just saying, like, I think the hype train on Caleb Williams is insane, right? People expect him to walk in and be Patrick Mahomes 2.0, and it's not how the NFL works. Like, you saw all of a sudden all these rookie quarterbacks, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, right? All these young quarterbacks that started week one that looked great in the preseason against people that were third and fourth stringers are probably plumbers now. All of a sudden, those first, depth squad guys, they're so much faster. The windows are tighter, right? I mean, all I'm saying is Caleb Williams is going to take some time. He might be great, he might not be, right? But it's not going to be week one, week two walking in and just kind of lighting the world on fire. It's probably going to take a few weeks, maybe half a year to a year, depending on how quickly he develops. Now, I got the Texans winning this game as well, Puma. It's very straightforward. I am very high on the Texans. The Texans look good, man. Like, they are just Joe Mixon is so physical. Like, I forgot how hard he runs, and that game was fun to watch. Like,
I bet the Bengals miss having Joe Mixon right now, right?
Yeah, my buddy Tim works with us. He actually was out there in Indianapolis. He's a big Colts fan for that Bengals and for that Texans Colts game, and he was just like, I was blown away by AR-15s, basically shot puts, right? So, listen, I got the Texans, man. They're smooth. They're good. I love what they do. They're a team that I wasn't buying the hype on because everybody's like, oh, maybe Super Bowl dark horse, maybe Super Bowl dark horse. I'll tell you what, though, man, like, that might be true. Like, they might be legit.
Yeah, AFC South is gonna be fun to watch with Anthony Richardson, assuming he can stay healthy, and CJ Stroud. And if you can't tell, I'm not that high on Jacksonville or Tennessee. So to me, it's just a 2-horse race in this AFC South. But no, betting wise, I might look at like Texas team total, but I'll jump into that and I'll have more posted on my Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called.
Take it away, brother. It's Puma best time.
Speaking of Puma bets, the segment, in the words of Jay, taking over the nation is my Puma bets, which in the offseason, slight update, I partnered with this great group. They're called it's Dub Club. So I put plays out there. My subscription, you get 2 to 4 plays a day. You get full write-ups. It's $8 a month. And sometimes I'll have 2 plays. Jay, you've seen it. Sometimes I'll have 6 on either baseball, football. Personally, I'm done with baseball right now until the playoffs because August is the most volatile part of the year for baseball, and I have the record to prove it. I got my teeth kicked in. I'm not going to hide from it. Baseball was brutal, but we're back with football, and it couldn't have come at a better time. So for the Puma bets, without further ado, so far I only have 2 college plays and 2 NFL plays, but there will be more posted throughout the week as I jump more into the slate. But real quick, on the NFL side of things, we're going to head to Lambeau Field for what should have been a fantastic matchup between Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts, going on the road to Lambeau to face Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Well, Jordan Love's status is TBD, so we might be getting the Malik Willis experience, and I am laying it with Indianapolis at -3.5. I got it at +100, even money on Fanatics last night. So gotta love those weird lines and odds that they put out there sometimes.
Quick question. Yeah. Can I show you a dub screen as well? Or is that
go for it? Yeah, have at it. We'll give the people a taste.
Yeah. Give them a preview. It's like the OnlyFans preview, right? Is that what's happening right now?
Right? Yeah. But I'm gonna lay it with Indianapolis 3.5. So we saw what Anthony Richardson did against the Houston Texans. I think he'll be able to move the ball around and move it through the air, and he's just so dynamic with his legs. It's fantastic here. And also, if Malik Willis is starting, this line should inflate to probably 5.5. Like, Matt LaFleur left the door open somewhat. So to me, that's just a little bit more of the gamesmanship side of things. Jonathan Taylor had a relatively quiet week 1, but again, I think that was more game script than anything, based on they were playing from behind from time to time. So I like Indianapolis here, -3.5. A lot of action has come in on Green Bay since I put this up earlier today. So it's down to 3. But I think, in the words of Nick Costos, that's going to be the fake sharp play of the week. I'm going to lay it with Indianapolis here. Next, Jay has it up here. We're going to go to a very ugly game. And I put it in my write-up of the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders here. It's kind of like when you're at the bar and you're either the wingman or the wingwoman. And sometimes, you just got to take one for the team. This is an ugly-ass game. But I have more faith in Jaden Daniels at home against the New York Football Giants because Daniel Jones is god-awful. Everyone was looking at the Giants having essentially a free space for some reason against the Minnesota Vikings, and they absolutely got their asses handed to them. Daniel Jones looks lost. He's holding on the football too long. Like, for once, the offensive line really wasn't the problem in a football game. It was more so what was going on between his ears. Dan Quinn, great defensive guy. He's seen DJ a ton of times as a defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. I know the Commies defense are not the Dallas Cowboys, but I think Dan Quinn is going to be able to dial up some schemes and confuse the hell out of I need him to let me hold $1 million. Yeah, you and me both, brother. But I think he'll be able to dial up some stuff and to either force DJ to hold on the football too long and take a sack, stay behind the chains the whole game, or he'll just do the gift pick 6, and we'll cash this either way. So I'll lay the 2.5 at -112. I believe this was another Fanatics one I got last night as well too. So those are my 2 NFL plays. And if Jay scrolls down, we're going to head to Oregon State, or maybe it's up. Up is down, down is up. Who knows? But we're going to go to the Civil War. And we're going to have Oregon on the road in Corvallis at Oregon State. And I just, 2 weeks in a row where Oregon was just lackluster at best. Maybe they're both good teams in Idaho and Boise State. I mean, Boise State really took them to the limit, and they probably have one of the best running backs in the country, and a dark horse, pun intended, because it's the Boise State Broncos, to be a Heisman contender. But you also had Idaho that kind of took them to the limit a little bit in week 1, and they beat Wyoming. But just Dylan Gabriel, this is not the explosive offense that we have become used to seeing with Bo Nix and Dan Lanning of last year. And, I threw a stat here in the write-up. This is kind of the stuff that you'll get if you subscribe. But Dylan Gabriel, out of 141 FBS quarterbacks that are eligible, and to be eligible on the stat, you have to have 20 plus more dropbacks through the first 2 weeks. He has an average depth of target, an ADOT, of 5.8 yards, which is the 9th lowest out of 141 FBS quarterbacks through 2 weeks. The big problem with Dylan Gabriel, and kind of why he got run out of Oklahoma, was he was gun shy and he never took the shot downfield. And if you really want to get into it, all of the plays that are designed for Dylan Gabriel are shaded to the left, because if you ask him to throw the ball the right side, it's like me trying to read sheet music or me trying to read NOTAMs at my job. It is hilarious when you try to watch that. So he left a lot of plays on the field. Oregon State has their own issues. Don't get me wrong. They lost a lot of people in the transfer portal with the coaching change that happened in the offseason. But 16.5 points with an underwhelming team on the road in Corvallis. I think this is going to be a tighter game than a lot of people are expecting. Honestly, this might be a money line sprinkle for me because I think they could win outright. I can't buy Oregon at this point. So I'm selling them. And then the last college play, we're going to head to the backyard brawl. And it's going to be a good matchup. I'm honestly glad that they brought this rivalry game back. We're going to have West Virginia on the road in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to lay it with the Mountaineers. It's 2.5 when I got it. I think it's probably still around 2.5. But the Mountaineers have a great rushing attack. Outside of week 1, they just ran into a juggernaut in Penn State. It is what it is. Sometimes you're going to get got. Sometimes you're going to smoke people out. They got, but I think they're going to win this rivalry game on the road in Pittsburgh. I mean, Pitt allowed Cincinnati pretty much 4 yards per carry. And honestly, they should have lost that game last week. against Cincinnati, but with some hero ball with the quarterback who can also put the ball in harm's way as well too. I'll lay the short number 2.5. I think they're going to run all over Pittsburgh, and hell, even that quarterback for the Mountaineers, whose name is escaping me for some reason. He's dynamic with his legs. He can throw the ball down the field as well too. So I'll lay the short number, the 2.5, with West Virginia on the road.
Very nice, very nice. What was your overall impressions of week 1 of the NFL, of the NCAA season?
Week 1 was.
Let me ask you this. Best team you saw all weekend?
Best team I saw week 1, or best team I saw through the first 2 weeks? Because if it's through the first 2 weeks, if it's through the first 2 weeks, it's Texas, and it's not even close. I mean, obviously, like Georgia's Georgia, but Texas is just on a different level when you look at some of the people that they lost in the draft through on the defensive line, on the offensive side of the football. And Quinn Ewers just, for a lack of a better term, just threw his nuts over his shoulder and walked into the big house and boat raced Michigan. And Michigan has their own problems. One of them is, Connor Stalions not tapping into people's headsets or stealing signs, but they have a quarterback problem because they can't figure anything out. But I gotta go with Texas. Like I think they're going to be a big contender to win the national title, which I know is #analysis. But a lot of people were like, "Oh, they're going on the road in the big house and they're laying 7.5." It's like, do you understand? Like Quinn Ewers went into Tuscaloosa and won outright against a Nick Saban Alabama team. Like this is nothing. When it comes to the big games, Quinn Ewers has no problem going big game hunting. So
listen, man, I've always been a big fan of Quinn Ewers, man, since day one at Ohio State, right? So he played for a year. Well, he didn't play. He just watched for a year at Ohio State. And the reason why he had to move out to Texas was because he didn't get enough playing time here, right? So I'm right there with you. Texas is a baller. Love what I saw out of Georgia. Those guys are just phenomenal, man. Georgia is just so damn good. Like, I don't understand it, how every single year they can just find people that can move people around, right? Like their offensive line is just mauling people. So they're going to be awesome. They're going to be there. Watch out for Alabama. Surprisingly, Alabama, I think, has gotten better with Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe, right? So Jalen Milroe under Saban was all right? I think Jalen Milroe might take the next step under Kalen DeBoer. So keep an eye out for those guys always. And then obviously my Ohio State Buckeyes. Like, I mean, we're just this Will Howard kid, Puma, reminds me of Josh Allen, dude. Like, he reminds me of Josh Allen. Like 6'4", 6'5", massive kid, 250, 260 pounds. He runs people over. And then we got this kid by the name of Jeremiah Smith, who's our wide receiver. He's Geno Smith's cousin. Like, no lie, he might be the best wide receiver we've ever seen, right? And I know it's cliche to keep saying that over and over again because we had Chris Olave and then Garrett Wilson was better. And then after that, Marvin Harrison was better. But, like, Jeremiah Smith is going to be insane. So I think those 4 teams, if we end up with those 4 teams in the college football Final Four, that's going to be a hell of a weekend.
Mm-hmm. And, we real quick on Kalen DeBoer, and then I got a question for you for college before we wrap up. I mean, we saw what he did with Michael Penix. Like he had Michael Penix at Indiana. Okay, so there's obviously the track record, but I mean, he friggin' took off at Washington. And, throwing to Rome Odunze is going to help too. But I mean, the Huskies were fantastic last year, and I don't think it's an accident. And we saw, granted, they were playing scrubs, but Jalen Milroe was airing the ball out. He's running with the legs. He's hitting the short into intermediate passes, which was kind of the moon to him. Another team that impressed me, and then we'll get to my question to you, I swear, is Tennessee, the Volunteers. They look fantastic as well too.
Yep.
And they should have they played NC State last week, so I forget who they're playing this week. But Nico looks fantastic back there under center. Now, Jay,
yes, sir.
My question for you, and I think we're going to have the same answer.
Lay it on me.
Outside of Florida State, what has been the most disappointing team through 2 weeks?
Notre Dame. Notre Dame. Hands down. And that's what you get, Marcus Freeman, for talking shit about Ohio State, all right? No, listen, ultimately, they had a great week 1 win. To go into Texas A&M, and I'm sorry, Lance, my buddy, you know what I'm saying? Like, to beat Texas A&M at their home stadium with 112,000 people, phenomenal win, like phenomenal. But the problem is, Notre Dame is trying to play football like it's the 1990s, man. Like, this isn't like, 1985 and you run the ball and play action. And I mean, like, they've got to modernize that offense. Marcus Freeman has to get out there and find a quarterback like a Quinn Ewers or a CJ Stroud or whoever it might be that can take you to the next level, right? They have to pay through the nose for one of these guys. And I think they just fundamentally don't want to. They fundamentally want to have that old school type of football. And I'm telling you what, it doesn't work in the NFL. It's not going to work in the NCAA as well.
No. And, this might be hot take-ish because I know it's not going to happen. You lose to Northern Illinois, you should not be in the college football playoff.
100%.
I'm sorry.
100%.
Like, you can run the table. I don't care. Like, you lost to a 28-point underdog outright at home. And that is a massive problem for Marcus Freeman because he's done that 3 or 4 years in a row. So we saw it with the Marshall game. We saw it with NIU. I'm sure I can find out 2 or 3 more games that they laid an egg where they were a multiple score favorite at home and they just mailed it in. And part of that, I'm not even going to say is an emotional dump because Connor Wegman did nothing in that Texas A&M game for the Aggies. So I don't know what that says about A&M when they handled their business the following week. And then you have Notre Dame that just completely no-shows against Northern Illinois. Like Riley Leonard didn't look that great. He wasn't really, from what I saw, because I was watching the Iowa State game because I had a little bit of a betting interest in that one. He can avoid sacks and he can avoid pressure, but after that, whatever happens with the ball is happenstance. Like you don't know where it's going. I have no idea where it's going. So Notre Dame is a massive disappointment.
Yes, sir. I agree to that. Anything else you want to get to? You want to plug it up and get out of here?
Yeah, let's plug it up. Let's get it out of here. And guys, we'll be back next week. People in the chat as well too. So welcome aboard. Sorry you hopped in late. You can play this on demand, and we'll shout you out next week. But for plugging it up wise, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram at Pro Football Radio Podcast, Twitter at PFR Podcast. I'm on the Twitter machine at Brando_Puma. Also on Dub Club. I'll put the link in my Twitter as well too, or X. But you can find it. You can find my plays out there. Subscribe, $8 a month for 4 to 6 plays a day. And you can find the captain of the ship on the ones and the twos, Mr. Jay Chima at Jay Chima.
Yes, sir. See you guys next week.
Vaya con Dios.